Hi, everybody. Welcome again to part two of my book overview, my book series for closing the confidence gap, boost your peace, your potential, and your paycheck. If we haven't met yet, I'm Kelli Thompson. I'm a women's leadership coach. I'm an author now, and I'm a speaker. So if you missed us last week, you can watch the replay probably most easiest on YouTube. But I'm doing a 4-part series in advance of my book launch. And my book launches on November 1st. So here in just 3 short weeks already. And I wanted to really break down some of the themes of the book. I wanted to talk about the title, which I did last week, Closing the Confidence Gap, and some of the big ideas. And then today I'm going to be talking about boosting your peace. Next week, I'll talk about boosting your potential and then boosting your paycheck, hence the subtitle of the book. So if you're here, drop me an emoji, say hi, say hello. I would love to know if you're here. And if you have any questions as I'm kind of walking through this, I would love to hear from you. I'm really just unpacking some of the big themes from the book. And last week, I talked about just a couple of the reasons why I wrote the book. One of the big ideas being that we don't need to fix women. We need more women in leadership. And big idea number 2 was that as women, we need to stop believing the lie that we are unqualified and that, the actions of confidence come first, the feelings come second. And so we need to go after the things that we're looking for. So this week, I want to unpack chapters 5 and 6, all related to the subtitle of Boost Your Peace. One of the things that I really love to spend a lot of time on, whether I'm doing this speaking in a group or doing this on a webinar or working with my clients one-to-one on it or in a group, is talking about their peace. I think all too often, and I can attest to this because I was someone who designed and developed a lot of leadership development programs when I was in corporate because I was in leadership development and human resources. We talk a lot about potential. We talk a lot about things that you can do to boost your paycheck, right? We talk a lot about the 5 ways that you can accelerate your career or get more sales or, shoot up the career ladder. But one of the topics two of the topics I think that we're really missing from a lot of leadership development that I gave was number 1, talking about ditching hustle culture. I mean, so much of hustle culture is embedded in our work and in our lives. It's kind of just our way of being. And I think that the pandemic has really shed some light on this about that people are burnout. They don't want to work 60 hours a week. I think the organizations that place a strong focus on well-being, sane working hours are going to win the war of talent. And so I think one of the things that makes this book a little bit different is I'm not going to tell you like, oh, here's 5 easy things that you can do to advance your career and get promoted. I mean, some of those tips are in there, but I'm also talking about like, and here's how you're going to do it in a way that feels good and in alignment with your values. I don't know. I mean, tell me in the comments or give me like a thumbs up emoji. Like, is this something that your organizations talk about a lot? Do they spend time talking about like consciously removing hustle and overwork and overwhelm, and maybe they don't. So maybe you need to give me the thumbs down emoji. Do they talk about really how to trust yourself in making decisions? And so I'll just walk through chapter 5 a little bit. So we're talking about boosting your peace. And I could not write this book without chapter 5. So the title of chapter 5 is Lead More by Doing Less. And I open with a story of one of my clients who was kind of, it is one of my client stories, but honestly, like this could be a story for any of us. But it just talked about how, she was, a partner in a regional firm. But not only was she a partner, she was like the office expert. So everybody was always coming to her for things. She was like the only person who had knowledge of like unique filing system things. She's like, sometimes I feel like I'm the only person that knows how to change the printer cartridges. She was also the person though, even though she had functional expertise, was the person planning all the parties and the office events. So I don't know, drop me an emoji or a heart if you feel like that's you. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing my job. And I'm also stocking the break room or planning all the office parties or volunteering for the fundraiser. People are coming to me asking like administrative tasks, or I feel like I'm placing orders for the office. She was doing all those things in addition to her day job. And, then she would go home and she'd be the parent at home too, driving kids to all the places, cooking all the meals. She was really burning the candle at both ends. And I think that this is a really good example of what is now coined the unpaid workload of women. And it says that women often take on an extra 2 hours a day of unpaid work, outside their day job. Things like shuttling kids around, preparing school gifts, lunches, cleaning, carpooling, all the things. But at the office too, there's the unpaid workload of women at the office. And I talk a lot about that in chapter 5, about how women are often delegated to take the meeting notes. I mean, again, tell me if any of this has happened to you where you feel like you're like, oh my gosh, I get all of these additional tasks. And Linda Babcock and her team have really defined unpaid workload or invisible work as work that women often take on. But when it comes to review time, work like stocking things, low level fundraising committees, running office errands, taking the meeting notes, being the person who organizes office events, when review time comes or raise time comes, this work is called invisible because it doesn't contribute to their performance reviews. It doesn't enhance their performance reviews, or they don't get raises or promotions based on some of this invisible work. And so it's really calling women up to say, hey, let's take a look and pay attention to some of this invisible work that's really robbing you of peace at work, peace of mind in your work-life balance. And then chapter 5 goes on to give what I call my do less framework, LESS. And so L stands for lose the limiting belief, or lose the reason why you think you need to say yes to all these things when you really need to say no. So that's number 1, is like really stopping and asking, like, why am I saying yes? I really want to say no, but why am I saying yes when I really want to say no? So really kind of uncovering the reason there. E stands for expressing your expectations. And I actually give a boundary setting framework in the book, like word by word, exactly how you can set boundaries with people in a way that still feels like positive and collaborative and doesn't feel kind of like, us versus them sort of thing. And then the S. So we've done LESS. So the first S is to shift your identity from doer to leader. And I give some examples and some frameworks of how often we are rewarded in the first half of life for being the doer. Lots of times the reason why we say yes when we want to say no is because our ego loves to be rewarded for being the doer. We grew up with getting gold stars for A's or participating in projects, or early on in our career, we're rewarded for how quickly and how well we get things done. But when we are promoted to leadership, we have to just make a mindset shift that says, you know what, I am comfortable no longer getting the accolades and rewards for all the doing, but I need to find accolades and rewards for coaching the doing, coaching other people to make the save, watching people grow through the learning process, even though it's slower. So lose the reason why you want to say yes when you want to say no, express your expectations and set boundaries, shift your identity from doer to leader. And then the last one is to start delegating. And I encourage folks to start delegating with low stakes tasks. All too often people wait until the stakes are really high and they're overloaded, and then they try to delegate, and then people mess up because it's really high stakes. And then they're like, oh, well, see, I can't delegate because when I delegate, people make mistakes. So I encourage you, start with low stakes items. And I talk about what those are. And then I give really practical tips for delegating. How to practice, clear delegating, giving people authority, how to offer grace when you're delegating. Excuse me. And then there's just some other fun tools in here, which I'm going to give you at the end. I'm going to give you homework for one of them. So that's the first chapter, as part of this boost your peace concept I'm talking about, is how to lead more by doing less, because we cannot accelerate into leadership and be comfortable, confident, forward-thinking leaders when we are so burdened and burnt out with all of the extra work that's being called and placed upon us. In fact, I know I share some statistics in the book, but McKinsey found that just, after the kind of the pandemic has passed, 4 in 10 women are really considering quitting because of burnout. And so I directly address this issue and some of the things systemically that we need to address, and also tips for the reader, for women, of things that they can do to thrive in spite of some of these systemic issues, which is the whole theme for the book. It's definitely a both and book. I address systemic issues in the workplace that need to change, and also give women tools so that they can navigate those challenges in the workplace. So the next chapter is chapter 6, that really addresses your peace at work. And this is the thing that is probably going to feel the most woo-woo for you. And It's also the thing that was the most life-changing for me when I left corporate America. Nowhere in our corporate leadership development programs do we talk about trusting our gut. Some of the best leadership development programs do some emotional intelligence work, but I can't think of a leadership development program today, at least one that's not widely available or what my clients say that they go through at work, that really talks about the power of trusting your intuition at work. Because here's the thing, no, sometimes people think like this whole like trusting your gut, trusting intuition is woo woo. But, I think the best example I've heard recently is Steve Jobs, no, sorry, not Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos said that when he pitched Amazon Prime, the numbers just didn't add up. And people thought he was crazy. But he goes, you know what? There was just something in my gut that said this is the right thing to do, even though the numbers didn't add up. I think we all know how that turned out, especially since Amazon is having their 2-day Prime sale right now. It turned out well for him because he trusted his gut. And there's lots of other examples in here about how some of the world's most successful leaders attribute their success to being obsessed with trusting their gut. So in this chapter, the Trust Yourself chapter, I really talk about how as women in the workplace, you're going to be getting lots of advice. You're going to be told lots of ways you should do things. I do coach some Gen Z and younger millennial clients, and they are inundated with well-meaning advice from their elders on what they should do with their career. And lots of times they come to me really confused because they're taking in all this advice. But the problem is, when we don't trust ourselves, we start taking other people's advice and it sends our career and sometimes even our lives down a direction that's just not right for us. And so in the Trust Yourself chapter, I argue that trusting your intuition, trusting your gut, same thing, is your new competitive advantage at work because the world is so noisy. And so for you to build a career that you feel good about, one that brings you peace when you lay in bed every single night, it's going to be essential to trust your gut and trust your intuition. There's a little intuition quiz in here. And then I give you a framework for how your body says heck yes and hell no. There's a little exercise that you'll go through so you'll know how your body says heck yes or hell no. And then at the end, I really give you a framework where I talk about head, heart, gut decision making. Really starting with your head, like what are the facts of the situation? And then checking in with your heart. What do I value? How's this going to impact people? How's this going to impact me? Does this align with values that I want? And then the last, place to stop second guessing and really trust yourself is just checking in with your gut and asking yourself the question, does this feel like peace or does this feel like dread? So I don't, give me emoji. Tell me, I'd be curious, like how this resonates with you. You can drop a comment. You can drop me an emoji that, says what you feel. Because I know this is not stuff we typically talk about in corporate leadership development programs, but learning these things was life-changing for me. And had I known them when I was designing and developing leadership programs, they would have been all in it. And I wouldn't have cared if all the bankers or the technology folks that I was training thought it was a little woo-woo because I thought it was woo-woo too. But ultimately, it's helped me, it's helped my clients make such better decisions for our work and for our lives. So that's chapters 5 and 6, the boost your peace part of my subtitle of how to boost your peace at work and life. And really the two big ideas there are this. So big idea number 1 is you have permission to stop being the hero all the time. There is an unpaid workload of women at the office, and it's time for organizations to start paying attention to who they're delegating things to. So you have permission to dump, delegate, and outsource this unpaid work so that you can bring more peace in your life and really clear your calendar so that you can shift from doer to leader and be a more effective leader. And the big idea number 2 is to trust yourself. It's really learning how to stop second guessing and trust yourself, recognizing that the world, your leaders, your workplace is going to give you lots of advice. There's going to be a lot of experts, a lot of Google searches on what you should do. But your competitive advantage as a leader is knowing how to trust your gut, knowing how your body says heck yes or hell no, and making really good, solid decisions that start with your head, that focus on the facts, that are in alignment with your values, and then ultimately, in alignment with what your gut says, yes, this is what I should do. So trusting yourself at work, checking in with your body is your new competitive advantage. So this book comes out on November 1st. You can order it on any of your favorite platforms. If you want to learn more about it, It's closingtheconfidencegap.com/book. I actually do have a sample chapter for download. So chapter 5, the lead more by doing less, that one is available for a sample download. So if you want to download that chapter and read more about my do less framework to help you delegate more at work and really just help you reclaim better balance, so you can free yourself up to shift from the doer to leader, that is an excellent download. I'll share the link in the comments, but it's just kellyraythompson.com/do less. Just really simple. / my website / do less. So anyways, hope you're excited, as excited about this book as I am. Again, it comes out on November 1st. If you think that there's a friend who will love it, you can definitely tag that individual or share it with them. Otherwise, I will be back next week because then we're going to talk about the boosting your potential part of this book. And I'm going to talk about chapters 3, 4, and 7. And then the last week, we'll talk about boosting your paycheck. And that's all about talking about money and making asks, some of my favorite things. So thank you all for coming. I hope that this book is helpful for you, or the tips that I shared today. One challenge I'm going to leave you all with, your homework, is I want you to do a calendar audit. I want you to take a look at what's coming up in your calendar in the next, I don't know, 30 days is a good one. And I want you to just ask yourself, like, are the things on your calendar in alignment with your values? You know, when you look at that thing on your calendar, does it bring up peace or dread? And if that thing is not in alignment with your values, if it's no longer a learning opportunity for you and it feels of dread, ask yourself, can you dump it? Can you delegate it? Or can you outsource it? And I see Peggy's making a comment here, and she lands the plane perfectly for us. The times I haven't trusted my gut have definitely been hard learning experiences. So trust your gut as you look at things on your calendar about what you can dump, delegate, and outsource. And I think that's a beautiful way to close today. So I will see you all again next Tuesday at 11:30 Central as I unpack the Boost Your Potential section of this book. If you have any questions about the book, send me a message, and I'll see you all again soon.